if you were a coach now, and they do wind up playing in the bubble, which I think almost everyone believes they ultimately will, how would you begin it? Like what would you do when you all first got there so that everyone could sit and talk and feel and all the rest of the stuff that it feels like needs to go on before anyone can consider playing a game?
Well, I think obviously a lot of that has been uh, dealt with individually through Zoom calls, I'm sure, between coaches, individual players. I think when you get together, though, there needs to be a cathartic meeting where everybody gets to say exactly what they want about a whole host of issues. I think that's the only way to move forward because remember, they haven't had a real team meeting where everybody is in front of each other for a very long time. And I think as long as you continue to deal with your team in a direct, honest, and transparent way, good things will come out of it. And I think the one thing every coach needs to caution themselves on is that you don't say this is a distraction. I there are distractions that get in the way of winning and losing. This is not a distraction. This is something that is ultimately very important to the individual players, to the teams, to our league, and ultimately to our country.
Yeah, it's that's what I was thinking about. Is that we use the word distraction as something that will distract you from your primary goal. In this case, winning the championship might be a secondary goal to all the other things that are happening. So it's just going to be fascinating to see how they wind up doing that. You know, Jeff, I've quoted you a million times in conversations that I've had where you once said to me, the relationship between the coach and the best player is the most important relationship in any team. If that relationship is good, you have a chance. In this case, again, under these extraordinary circumstances, how would you put into words the value of leadership amongst the players on a team, well beyond anything a coach can even consider?
I think it's going to be absolutely critical that your best players are aligned with the coach, driven towards winning, and have the mental fortitude to sustain themselves in what ultimately will be a very challenging environment. The enthusiasm and the drive of your best player has always been critical. It's never been more critical than in this uh, resumption of a season under these circumstances because I think the frustration with the bubble environment will really take hold 1 week after the teams get to Orlando and the initial enthusiasm and excitement about being back wanes a little bit. That's where your best players have to come in and drive the team forward.
While I have you, I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about basketball. And so as we talk about the best players, that of course always begins with LeBron. As you look at the landscape of where he is right now and where the league is moving, I've heard people suggest they think this is his best chance to win another championship if he's going to win his career. What do you think?
Well, I think it's certainly a great opportunity, and you'd have to say his best chance now because he's got a great team around him, a tremendous coaching staff, and I just love everything that this guy is doing, not only on the court but in his life. I think he is the example that all can follow to say you can do more than one thing exceptionally well simultaneously. And I think James will be driven. I think his team will follow suit. I think they're going to be a tough out. I think the Western Conference Finals that I would think be between the two LA teams, I think it's going to be a riveting Western Conference Final.
Well, help me, Jeff, because you understand this. And you know more about basketball than pretty much anyone I know. I'm trying to figure out in the environment in which they're going to be, how important will depth be? Will depth become more important or less important based upon the fact that there's going to be no travel? They'll be playing a lot of games in a short period of time, but the circumstances will just be so different than usual. The Clippers have so much more depth than the Lakers do. The Lakers may have the better players at the very top. Is depth going to be more or less important in your prediction based upon the circumstances?
Well, I think that's going to be due to health, going to be all based on health related issues. So you could have a team that gets nicked up, I think, for many various reasons. And obviously, then depth will be critical. But I think if everybody's healthy, I think it's always been a league about the best players. and the healthiest, best players usually have the upper hand. And remember now, home court advantage, there is no home court advantage. So for those teams that are eyeing the championship, there's no reason to kill themselves in those regular season games because they're not fighting for anything of significance, seeding relatively unimportant.
And then one more. Someone asked me the other day who I would pick as a sleeper team. So I went back and looked. This all happened so long ago, it's hard to remember. But since Zion Williamson started playing, the New Orleans Pelicans have been one of the best teams in the NBA. If they find a way to get themselves into this tournament, do you think they could make things interesting?
Well, I do like their team very much. And you're right, Zion has had a huge impact on that team. And when healthy, they're fast, they're long, they're deep, uh, and they play really good offensive basketball. Alvin Gentry does a great job with that team, getting them to play together. I think my sleeper team would be Houston, in that they're really good. Everybody knows that, but Harden, Westbrook shooting, they're going to be a tough out. I'm fascinated to watch how every team approaches this initial 3 week, how they approach the regular season, and then can they sustain their level of enthusiasm and drive to play really good basketball as the playoffs progress. I don't know. Like, to me, this is not the 19 and 20 season. That season is over. This is a separate season unto itself. And I am just going to be absolutely fascinated by the different approaches and how the different players respond.